Mic 5, check. Mic 6, check. Mic 7, check. Mic 8, check. Number 9. Mic number 10. Mic 11, check.
You know if Joan
Mic 12, check.
Counselor? Joan Manwaring, is she still?
She did not.
21, check.
She still currently is, but she's not, she won't become.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah.
This is number 19 for our petitioner's table tonight.
She's in my ward.
13.
Chris Roberts, I think, is taking her place.
Number 14.
Yeah, he's the write-in candidate.
15, check. 16, check.
If he ran for at-large or awards.
This is 20.
Ran for Ward 1.
Okay.
This is 17. And number 18.
Yeah, I've known Chris quite a while.
I like her. I don't really know him that well,
Yeah.
but what I know, the few times I've interacted with him, he's a nice guy. And we were both Marines.
Yeah,
I think we were both in Okinawa at the same time.
yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
My good friend in the Scouts, his father was killed the last day of the war in Okinawa by a holdout sniper. The last day of the war. He got, at West Point, he could have gone to West Point because of that, but
Oh,
he decided not to go.
Yeah.
I didn't know you'd been in the Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah, were you in, how long were you in?
I did like 4 years active
Yeah.
duty and then.
What
2
years were you in?
81 to 85.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That was the year I was battling Dick Cheney out in Wyoming.
Oh yeah.
That was almost a war.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. You probably were fighting harder than I was. We were definitely, we weren't. We didn't have any combat going
Yeah.
on when I was in, but.
Yeah, I did some wilderness surveys for the Bureau of Land Management as an environmental technician, and one of the areas we studied, there was 10 relict areas that we designated as eligible for wilderness area on the BLM land.
Yeah.
And we went in there and identified them, and a month later, Dick Cheney came in with his boys. They had a public meeting. We knew it was going to be stacked.
Yeah.
And we got people to write letters and stuff. They leased every one of those areas to oil and gas companies. Every one of them. It was rough going out there. I'll tell you, I was a lone ranger without a tonneau.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I was. They were driving by my wife's house when I was at work, because I commuted 140 miles a day.
Holy
I
moly.
lived at Bear Lake, and she was home pregnant.
The hour of 7 p.m. having arrived, I'll call to order this regular meeting of Keene City Council. This meeting is televised live on channel 1302. The video is also streamed on the city's website and is posted on the website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. If you'd like to receive an electronic copy of the City Council packet to reference while viewing future broadcasts, please contact the City Clerk's office during regular business hours or go to the city's website and subscribe to the city meetings email list. The agenda is also accessible from any mobile device. This time I will be calling the roll tonight. Stephen L. Hooper.
Here.
Michael J. Remy.
Here.
Janice O. Manwaring.
Here.
Brian J. Lake.
Here.
Randy L. Filio.
Here.
Robert C. Williams.
Here.
Philip M. Jones.
Here.
Gladys Johnson.
Here.
Andrew M. Madison.
Here.
Bettina A. Chadbourne.
Here.
Catherine I. Workman.
Here.
Kate M. Bosley.
Here.
Thomas F. Powers.
Here.
All right, thank you very much. Counselor Lake, will you please lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Counselor Lake. A few announcements tonight. We have a birthday. Phil Jones's birthday is December 2nd. Congrats, Phil. So all of our standing committees next week are going to be canceled, and we will not meet again until Inauguration Day, which this year is scheduled for Monday, January 3rd at 12 noon. It will be here in council chambers. Our second council workshop on goals will be Tuesday, January 11th at 6 p.m. in Heberden Hall. So please do attend that. That wraps up the goals process that hopefully you've all gotten a lot out of. I certainly have. Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion from Councilor Powers, please, with a second from Councilor Bosley on the minutes.
I thank Your Honor. I move to accept the minutes from the December 2nd, 2021 regular meeting as printed.
And I second that.
And we have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Bosley. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. I do have a retirement resolution. Will Barry Hilton Sr., Police Chief Russo, please join me up here if you're in attendance.
Shane.
Oh, Shane. Great.
Come on
You're not shy.
So whereas Barry P. Hilton began his career with the Keene Police Department on June 13th, 1988, as Animal Control Officer, added to the role of traffic signal maintenance and repair with the Traffic Platoon of the Operations Division in 1992, and was reclassified to Traffic Safety Specialist Animal Control Officer effective January 1st, 2000, and whereas certified as Level 2 Animal Control Officer with additional training from the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department and the Animal Control Humane Academy, Barry has responded promptly, sensitively, and effectively to a variety of calls for service. From bobcat to boa constrictor, mice and traffic light boxes, and educated pet owners on their responsibilities. Worked with the health department, local schools, and other agencies to raise awareness of rabies and help ensure prompt reporting of potential exposures. Maintained excellent relationships with area veterinarians, animal welfare individuals, and the Monadnock Regional Humane Society, for whom he earned an award of appreciation, and worked in concert with the City Clerk's Office, former District Court, and Police Operations Division for an organized, comprehensive, and effective approach to animal control and enforcement. And whereas also certified as a Level 2 traffic signal technician, Barry has an outstanding grasp of the effects of lights on traffic throughout the city and how to best adjust them to optimize safety when safety issues arise. Has recommended short and long-term maintenance programs as well as improvements to the system to preempt problems, save the city considerable money by repairing hardware and wiring problems within creative ways, earning him the nickname MacGyver from one supervisor. Researching and negotiating with vendors, going directly to manufacturers for advice, upgrading the Opticom traffic preemption system itself, and converting the old lighting system to LED configuration at better service and tremendous savings, and within a short time frame, so the city could take advantage of rebate offers, and has made himself available 24 hours a day. Whereas a jack of all trades with a strong sense of teamwork, Barry has provided essential logistical support as part of the department's collision analysis team, helped divert traffic problems for many community events, served as backup for school crossing guards, and as a member of citywide committees, and contributed to a myriad of other ways to daily operations of KPD. And whereas Barry retires from the city of Keene December 31st, 2021, with 33 and a half years of dedicated honorable service. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Keene hereby extends its sincerest thanks to Barry Hilton Sr. and wishes him the very best through all of his retirement years. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution properly engrossed be presented to Barry in his appreciation for his many years of service to the residents of Keene and the Monadnock region. Congratulations. And thank you. I forgot to use my microphone, but I gotta give you one.
I didn't realize I did all this stuff. I guess I wasn't paid enough. No, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Chief Powers. He brought me on. Took a chance on me. Hopefully, I made him proud. In the city's been great. My kids were all under 5 years old when I started. They're all adults now, and they would have come. I didn't ask them to come. But I want to thank everybody, and this is like my second home. Being here for so long, it's just, it hasn't hit me yet. Maybe middle of January I'll say, I guess I don't got to go into work today. But I'm riding around now looking at streets that I'll probably never ever be on again. But I just want to thank the city, and the city's been great to me. And that's it. I don't want to ramble because people know me. I'll go on forever.
Well, thank you. Okay, which brings us to nominations. Number one.
This evening, we have the mayor's nominations. We actually have two sets of nomination. The first, item B1, is for those incumbents who are eligible for a second term. And they include, to the Airport Development and Marketing Committee, Peter Temple with a term to expire December 31, 2022, Elizabeth Bindell with a term to expire December 31, 2024, and Councilor Greenwald with a term to expire December 31, 2024. To the Asheville River Park Advisory Board, Steve Hooper, who has previously been the council rep, is now shifting to a civilian member, term to expire December 31, 2024. And to the Assessors Board, Rita Johnson, term to expire December 31, 2024. To the Bicycle Pedestrian Path Advisory Committee, Dylan Bennick, term to expire December 31, 2024. And Doug Brown, to the Building Board of Appeals, December 31, 2024. To the Conservation Commission, Alexander Von Plinsky, term to expire December 31, 2024. Kenneth Bergman, term to expire December 31, 2024. Tom Haynes, term to expire December 31, 2024. And Councilor Williams, who is the incumbent councilor rep to the Conservation Commission, December 31, 2023. To the Energy and Climate Committee, Zach Luce, term to expire December 31, 2024. Brian Lake, December 31, 2024. Councilor Ormerod, serving as the council rep, December 31, 2023. Andrew Day, December 31, 2024. To the Heritage Commission, Paul Powell, December 31, 2024. And Marilyn Houston, December 31, 2022. Counselor Johnson as the council rep, December 31, 2023. Brian Lee, December 31, 2023. To the Historic District Commission, Kat Workman, December 31, 2024, and she is the council rep. And Dave Bergeron, who's been serving as an alternate, December 31, 2024. To the Housing Standards Board of Appeal, Doug Brown, December 31, 2024. To the Human Rights Committee, Marty Fisk as the ex officio administrative staff, December 31, 2023. Council Manwaring, she'll be serving as a civilian member, December 31, 2024. Sean Filio, December 31, 2024. And Mohammed Salih, December 31, 2024. To the Partner City Committee, Court Blomquist, administrative staff, December 31, 2023. Mayor Hansel, December 31, 2024. Lena Cridlow, December 31, 2024. And Dawn Thomas Smith, December 31, 2024. To the Planning Board, Harold Farrington, who previously served as an alternate, moving up to a regular position, December 31, 2024. Councilor Remy is the council rep, December 31, 2023. To the Trustees of Trust Funds, Jenny Newcomb, December 31, 2024. And to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Joseph Hoppickett, December 31, 2024.
Okay, and we'll table those nominations to the next regular meeting. Number 2.
Before reading this B2 item, there is an error. We just nominated Councilor Williams as our council rep to the Conservation Commission, so that reference to Council Workman is an error. To the Airport Development and Marketing Committee, Luca Paris, December 31, 2022. To the Asheville River Park Advisory Board, Councilor Chadbourne to serve as the council rep, December 31, 2023. To the Energy and Climate Committee, Diana Duffy, December 31, 2024. To the Human Rights Committee, Hunter Kirschner, December 31, 2023. Rabbi Daniel Aronson, December 31, 2023. To the Keene Housing Authority, Steve Bianco, December 31, 2026. And to the Planning Board, Armando Rangel as an alternate, December 31, 2022. And to the Trustees of Trust Funds, Martha Curtis, December 31, 2024.
Thank you, and these will be tabled to our next regular meeting. Which brings us to confirmations, number 3.
These nominations are up for confirmation. This is the new Congregate Living and Social Services Licensing Board. They include Andrew Oram, December 31, 2024. Allison Welsh, December 31, 2024. Martha Curtis, December 31, 2023. Abigail Abrash Walton, December 31, 2023. And Medard Kopczynski, serving as the ex officio administrative official, December 31, 2023.
And I'm looking to Councilor Powers for a motion, please. Councilor Bosley for a second.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to confirm the nominations.
And I second that.
We have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Bosley. Any discussion on the confirmations? Seeing none, this does require a roll call vote. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Hooper.
Yes.
Counselor Remy.
Yes.
Counselor Manwaring.
Yes.
Counselor Lake.
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counselor Madison.
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman.
Yes.
Counselor Bosley.
Yes.
And Counselor Powers.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The nominations are confirmed, which brings us to committee reports. Number 1.
Planning License and Development Committee report relative to use of city property for the Ice and Snow Festival. On a vote of 5-0, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee recommends that the Keene Downtown Group be granted a street fair license to use downtown city rights-of-way for purposes of conducting merchant sidewalk sales, as well as use of downtown city property on Central Square, Railroad Square, and designated parking spaces on Central Square and Main Street to conduct the Ice and Snow Festival on Saturday, February 5th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., In addition, the applicant is permitted to close off a portion of Railroad Street from Main Street to the exit of the Wells Street parking garage. This permission is granted subject to the customary licensing requirements of the City Council, submittal of signed letters of permission from the owners of any use of private property, and compliance with any recommendations of staff. In addition, the petitioner is granted use of the requested parking spaces free of charge under the provisions of the free parking policy. The petitioner agrees to absorb the cost of any city services over and above the amount of the city funding allocated in the FY22 community events budget.
Thank you. I'm looking to Counselor Bosley for a motion, please. Counselor Jones for a second.
I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Bosley, seconded by Counselor Jones. Counselor Bosley.
Thank you, Your Honor. So basically, this is the annual request for the Ice and Snow Festival by the Keene Downtown Group. It's going to be held on February 5th this year, and it's a very family-friendly event. They are planning to have a children's train, face painting. In years past, they've had an average of about 17 businesses participate, where they handed out free hot chocolate and s'mores and did scavenger hunts. So just sounds like an amazing, wonderful event to have in our downtown in the middle of winter to bring some liveliness. They're planning on having about 8 ice carvers, and this year they've actually constructed light boxes. So the sculptures will be built on these light boxes, and they'll actually be turned into like glowing ornaments, which is gonna look pretty spectacular, I think. So the committee as a whole was in full support of this event, and we hope you guys will all support it as well.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 2.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to an American Recovery Plan Act Formulaic Subgrant Round 2, support of library services. On a vote of 3-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to accept and expend a $34,496 grant from the New Hampshire State Library, Institute of Museum and Library Services, and the American Recovery Plan Act Formulaic Subgrant Round 2 for the support of library services.
Thank you. Counselor Powers for motion. Counselor Hooper for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
And we have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Hooper. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize that those 3 or 4 items in my agenda packet are missing, so I'm gonna have to do this from memory. It is a state library services grant to our library to continue some of the fantastic work they're doing. And the committee discussed it with the library director and voted unanimously to recommend that the city manager be authorized to sign this grant, accept the money, and that they're able to expend it for their services throughout the next year.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 3.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to an authorization to enter into a contract for writing and dissemination of the Keene Public Library STEM and Maker Activities Toolkit. On a vote of 3-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute a contract with Regalium Consulting LLC for the writing and dissemination of the Keene Public Library STEM and Maker Activities Toolkit as outlined in RFP 02-22-03.
Thank you. Again, I'm looking to Counselor Powers for a motion. Counselor Hooper for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Hooper. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Once again, we're joined by the library director to explain this particular application and contract. As you know, the library does a number of things with youth and various programs, and the STEM program has been an award winner for us. It had a lot of activity over the years. You know, we had nothing to start, and this came together through a number of grants and a lot of work on the part of the library staff. Well, now we're at the point where it's well done and it's time to share with others. So this will wrap up the program in a fashion that we can begin to write programs or help other communities write programs and make their programs even better. And at the same time, we will improve with the information that we gather, we're working with the other folks. So they put out a proposal, and have selected this particular firm to assist us with it. Committee listened to the library director and recommends unanimously that the manager be authorized to sign this grant and contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Counselor Johnson?
Thank you. I appreciate this motion here, and I appreciate the STEM program. I was just wondering if they discussed anything, when it says in their toolbox, whatever, how it might relate to racism and people of other colors. Did they say anything about that? That would be my question to Councilor Powers, please.
Counselor Powers? City Manager?
During the presentation at FOP, that was not something that was discussed, but I'd be happy to follow up and provide additional information to you, Counselor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 4.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to the acceptance of a FAA grant for the airport. This specifically is the Airport Taxiway A Reconstruction. On a vote of 3-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to accept, execute, and expend a grant for the amount of $594,324 from the Federal Aviation Administration Airport Improvement Program.
Thank you. I'm looking at Counselor Powers for a motion. Counselor Hooper for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Hooper. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were joined by the airport director, who explained that this particular grant is additional funding to help us with our runway, taxiway projects that are going on down there. You'll recall that perhaps even a year ago, time with all these delays of construction kind of goes on, but we had a project for runway, for taxiway improvements and extensions, and the bids have come in. The things are beginning to work, but the cost of doing business has exceeded what we've had available. These monies have become available through the state administered, so it'll be an 80-10-10, I believe is the right number. That's how the money comes. We have our portion available, and it's all part of what we need to do. Our 5%. We've got the money, and it's an additional money from the other agencies to make this happen. Committee listened to the director, had a few questions, and everybody understands that this is moving forward. It's necessary. Voted unanimously to recommend that the manager be authorized to accept and expend these funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to be clear, 80% federal, 5% state, 5% city, is that correct? 90 federal, 5% state, 5% local. All right, great. Thank you, Counselor. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, are you ready for, are you early voting or?
Early voting.
Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 5.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to PEG programming. On a vote of 3-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends that the city manager be directed to proceed with a competitive bid process to provide public access programming.
Once again, Counselor Powers for a motion, please. Counselor Hooper for a second.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Hooper. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're joined by the IT director, assistant city manager, and she explained to us the status of our public, educational, and government programming. As you know, we do not have a station with us anymore doing all portions of what used to happen. And we have learned that as long as we receive funds from Spectrum, who happens to be the contractor in the area for cable TV, then we must provide services across the board. And I'm going to rely on the IT director to correct some of this. But we're moving forward with that portion that's going to be for public. We've got some solutions, and the school district has solutions, and we have a lot of partners to come together with the various other parts. But this one part, we need to be able to move forward. So this is going out and trying to find somebody that can assist us with this. And I think the manager can answer any other questions.
City Manager?
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So you'll remember a presentation recently from Rebecca Landry in regards to PEG, so Public Education and Government Programming. Right now, the city is broadcasting our government meetings over the channel and as well as streaming it online. And the school also, is looking at doing their meetings online again as well. So we've separated the educational and the government from the PEG. The last piece of it is the public piece, and that is the piece that we are looking to go out for a competitive bid process to see if we can get a nonprofit interested in doing that public broadcasting piece. And in regards to use of funds from our franchise fees, the only requirement for use of those funds is if we are going to make content for the public using those funds, then we would need to broadcast it over the channel. But the funds themselves really are not restricted. They can be used really for any purpose. It's just the restriction comes when, if we're using them for public programming, the question was asked, can we just do it streaming? And the answer was no, not if we're going to create public content in the studio. We would need to also broadcast it over the channel. So that was the only clarification. Otherwise, Councillor Powers explained it perfectly.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 6.
And our last report this evening is an informational report from the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee on the Downtown Infrastructure Improvement and Reconstruction Project.
This will be filed into the record as informational. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few updates for you this evening. In regards to the Community Development Department, we are, as you know, in the process of recruiting a planner in addition to a Community Development Director. Mary Bruner has been promoted to Senior Planner. Our Community Development Director, who recently retired but is still part-time working for us, Rhett Lamb, continues to provide assistance remotely. John Rogers is assuming some additional supervisory duties while we recruit and transition to a new director. Med Kopczynski will also be providing assistance to the department over the upcoming year to assist with the transition. And Director Bloomquist will assume the Assistant City Manager's responsibilities once taken on by Rhett. We have also hired Chris Kuzak to provide temporary contract assistance on the planning side of the department. Chris will begin January 3rd and has agreed to assist the city through April for 30 hours a week. In addition to providing day-to-day planning assistance, Chris will be providing support at various committees, so you'll see him at some of those committees you attend. Chris has an impressive resume of note. He has a PhD in urban studies and pre-professional planning, in addition to his work right here on the Keene Planning Board. I also tonight wanted to congratulate Frank, or his nickname is Pepper, so everybody knows him as Pepper Anderson, and our facilities department for his successful completion of Building Operator Certification Level 2. Pepper continues to advance his training and has proven himself to be a great asset to our team. And tonight, since it's our last meeting of this year, I would also like to personally thank Councillor Hooper and Councillor Manwaring, as tonight is their last council meeting. You were both part of the council that originally hired me, and I am grateful for all your support and guidance over the last 4.5 years. I've learned a great deal from you both, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity that you have given me to serve this community. And then my last comment is, of course, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you very much. Which brings us to City Officer and Department Reports. Number 1.
We have a memorandum from the City Assessor. It's relative to a application for 79E Community Revitalization Tax Relief for property located at 112 Washington Street.
And we'll set a public hearing for January 6th at 7 p.m. and the application is referred to the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. Which brings us to number 2.
don't seem to have in my packet's gotten a little disorganized. And again, from the city assessor, a second 7090 application. This one for property at 310 Marlborough Street.
And this one will have a public hearing as well, scheduled for January 6th at 7:05 PM. And the application is also referred to the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. Which brings us to board and commission reports, number 1.
And a memorandum from John Rogers, the building and health official. It's relaying to the city council's consideration the resignation email from Art Gaudio, who has been serving on the zoning board of adjustment. Art and his wife are relocating out of Keene, and he's offered his resignation effective immediately.
Counselor Powers for a motion, please. Counselor Bosley for a second.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to accept the resignations with regret and appreciation for the service they've given the community.
And I second that.
We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Bosley. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. This brings us to ordinances for a second reading, number 1.
Planning Licenses and Development Committee relative to Ordinance 2021-14, an ordinance relating to amendments to the Business Growth and Reuse District. The Planning License and Development Committee is recommending the adoption of the ordinance.
And we'll file the report. I'm looking to Counselor Bosley for a motion to adopt. Counselor Jones for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to adopt ordinance 2021-14.
Second.
And we have a motion from Counselor Bosley, seconded by Counselor Jones. Counselor Bosley.
Thank you. So this was Randall Walter who had come before us and asked to add personal service establishment to permitted uses in the Business Growth and Reuse District. We were all present for the presentation here a few weeks ago in the public hearing on this item. No new concerns have been brought before the committee at this time, and we were all in favor of this change. So we'd like to recommend this adoption.
Thank you very much. Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. I feel obligated to speak to this since I was the one that started this whole thing with a letter I wrote in 2004. This was the biggest rezoning operation that we have done since 1970. And we created new zones that names we never even knew before existed. We created new uses that we didn't know existed. And this was just one that fits perfectly. It just kind of slipped through the cracks. I mean, it fits real well, and I think we should adopt this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Hooper.
Yes.
Counselor Remy.
Yes.
Counselor Manwaring.
Yes.
Counselor Lake.
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counselor Madison.
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman.
Yes.
Counselor Bosley.
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes.
And it's unanimously adopted. Which brings us to number 2.
Planning License and Development Committee report relative to Ordinance 2021-16. The committee recommends the adoption of the ordinance, the A version of the ordinance that came out of committee.
I'm looking at Counselor Bosley for a motion and Counselor Jones for a second, please.
I move to adopt ordinance O-2021-16A with an effective date of December 20th, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Bosley, seconded by Counselor Jones. Counselor Bosley.
Thank you. So firstly, I know most of us attended the PLD committee last week, and I'm sure the ones that were not able to attend were able to view it, view the video of that. So I'm not going to recap all of the nitty-gritty details, but I will mention that we did hear from Dr. Caruso concerning the state of Cheshire Medical Center. It was followed by several dozens of citizens who voiced their opinions about the mandate or submitted comment cards that we all have received before us tonight. I've also received a flood of emails, which I'm sure you guys have all also received, and I'm sure this is all going to move into some lively conversations, so I think we just need to get into it.
All right, thank you very much, Counselor Bosley. I want to start off, the version that you have in your packet has some staff recommended changes. I don't see these as overly controversial, so I would like to start off and just get Counselor Bosley to propose an amendment to incorporate those staff recommended changes into what's on the table. Then we'll open it up to city councilors who want to propose any amendments. I'm not going to stack amendments tonight. I really think we want to keep things really clean, so if you have an idea, you put it forward, we'll vote on it, and if someone else has a different idea, they can put something else on the table. So Councilor Bosley, would you please make that motion?
Yes, Your Honor. So I would like to move to amend Ordinance O-2021-16-A to incorporate the suggested amendments from staff. You have a
Second, and now it's a B, correct?
Correct. So we have a motion from Councilor Bosley to amend, second by Councilor Jones. Again, this is the staff recommended changes. This will make it consistent with what was in your packet and hopefully what everybody read. Are there any questions on that? Okay, I'm going to do roll call votes for all the amendments tonight, so will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Hooper,
Yes.
Counselor Remy,
Yes.
Counselor Manwaring,
Yes.
Counselor Lake,
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counselor Madison,
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman.
Yes.
Counselor Bosley.
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes.
Okay, so that amendment is unanimously incorporated, unanimously adopted, and so that incorporates the staff recommended changes, basically making it consistent with what's in everybody's packet. This time I'd open it up to councilors that want to propose further amendments. Councilor Remy.
Thank you, Your Honor. We received a survey from local business owners that were asked a very simple one-question survey. Are you in favor of reinstating the mask requirement of that people wear face coverings in all indoor public spaces? Just one question. We received 70 responses to that, which it's all from individual businesses within 1 mile of Main Street. We received 70 responses, 49 of them said no. That's 70%. Those are the people that we are forcefully deputizing to enforce this.
Right.
And I don't think that's fair to them.
Definitely.
I'm supportive of masks. I'm wearing a mask now. I wear a mask when I go into businesses when I'm concerned. I appreciate that they can add value in some circumstances. I don't think it's spreading in the 3 minutes that you're walking into a store and walking back out. I don't think that's good. I don't think it's good to require those businesses to enforce it. My proposed amendments are to change in, let's see if I can get them all. I don't know if you might have to help me with some of these. So 66, 171, changing sections B and C where everywhere where it says required to recommended. Requiring that, basically saying that the public would be recommended to wear it. The staff in this case would still be required. It gets us to a point where the folks that are coming in and out of that business, it is encouraged, it's recommended that those folks wear a mask, but it is not required. It's not up to the business to enforce or mandate that for their folks. I don't know if there are any other places where that would be recommended
Just to be clear, I think your intent is to change the required to recommended, specifically that in section 171B, that would change the word required to encouraged.
Correct.
It would also strike the line in 171B, provided, however, that members of the public shall not be required to wear a face covering while actually seated. That becomes moot if it's a recommendation.
Correct.
In 171C, it changes the word required to encouraged, and further, it changes the word requirement later down in that paragraph to recommendation. Furthermore,
This,
section F, it changes required to encouraged once again.
yeah, unnecessary, but this is largely to align with one of the versions that many of us have seen that was circulated at one point.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Motion by Councilor Remy, seconded by Councilor Manwaring. Any discussion on the proposed amendment? Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think this is the place that I speak, but as I read some of these, I felt that when we went from required to kind of recommending, we were watering it down. That concerned me. This has been a very, as I know for many of us, a thoughtful process. I listened to the tape again the second day. I feel very strongly about protecting our people, which way it goes. Too many people are dying. They are dying. It's in the paper every night. And so I'm confused if in fact we accept all these words where we're changing required to recommended. I'm not comfortable with that at all. Thank you.
Thank you
And
very
I also
much.
had a lovely conversation with the mayor, and he and I talked about this.
We have a lot of lovely conversations. I just want to remind members of the public, it's not your time to weigh in, whether you agree or disagree with the people. I really, I appreciate you upholding the same standards of decorum that I require of city councilors.
Speak then?
No.
Then I'm gonna speak up.
So the way this works, if there's one more outburst, I'm gonna ask you to leave. You're welcome to go home, speak to your TV, and yell as loud as you want, but you can't do it here. If you refuse to leave, I'll have one of our officers help you leave.
Okay,
Is that clear?
gotcha.
Thank you very much. Further discussion on the amendment. Counselor Jones.
I want to ask, by taking out the word required, isn't this no longer an ordinance? It's not a mandate anymore, correct?
It still would be an ordinance passed by the council. It changes
But
the
we're not
content.
mandating anything. It becomes, I think it becomes a resolution and has to go back, be codified and go back to council. We're not creating a law anymore.
The staff is still, that's an important point. With the changes that are being proposed here, the staff of the businesses are still required to wear masks. It removes the requirement from the patrons of those businesses and makes it a recommendation.
Then it is an ordinance, okay.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Bosley?
I just have a clarification to section F. All funds, okay. So under section F, it says children under 10 years of age are not required. And I think you changed that to the word required to encourage, but you didn't strike the word not. So it would read are not encouraged, and I would rather not have that be the language in that section.
Right, we'll avoid the double negatives there. So we'll keep that as a friendly amendment. So we're taking the not out of there. So we'd just say are encouraged to wear face coverings. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Hooper,
No.
Counselor Remy,
Yes.
Counselor Manwaring,
Yes.
Counselor Lake,
No.
Counselor Filio.
No.
Counselor Williams,
No.
Counselor Jones,
No.
Counselor Johnson,
No,
Counselor Madison,
No.
Counselor Chadbourne,
No.
Counselor Workman,
No.
Counselor Bosley,
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
No.
All right, 3 in favor, 10 opposed. So the motion and the proposed amendment fails. Further amendments? Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a short one. Let me just find it. Section L, which was the sunset clause, which was amended at committee to say, shall be reviewed
Yeah.
every 60 days. Reviewed is not a word in our rules of order, so each one of us can have a different definition of reviewed. I don't know what that, does that mean it's gonna go back to council every
So
60
the way I
60
see it
days
is,
and being on the agenda?
the way I see it is the 60 days would be a maximum time period. So if any counselor wanted to bring it up at a meeting, they could do that. But in practical application, what I would do, if this goes through, is just take the closest council meeting that doesn't go over the 60-day time period, and we'll do a review of the ordinance.
Is that a staff report? Is that public input? What is? the
It could be
review?
added to the agenda, and we'd bring it up for review. I could put it on the council agenda.
But not for public input?
No, not for public input.
Okay, because we have no definition of, I have, all right, I was gonna amend it, but no, I'll leave it alone. I'm happy with it.
Okay,
With that definition.
all right. Further amendments? Counselor Bosley.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I also have some concerns with the language in section I of the proposed ordinance. And I would like to alter that language to address that currently the businesses are on the hook for fines for patrons who are refusing to wear their masks. And my concern is that we're going to see people potentially challenge this and that it's going to put businesses in a position where they're going to be negatively impacted by that section. So I would propose changing the wording to notwithstanding any provisions of the city code to the contrary, the penalty under this ordinance for any member of the public who declines to wear face covering as required by this ordinance shall be denied entry to or services provided by the business. In addition, any member of the public who declines to wear face covering as required by this ordinance shall be given a verbal warning for first offense, a written warning for second offense, and a fine for any third offense, and a fine of $100 for any third offense, and a fine of $250 for any fourth or subsequent offense, which puts the onus back on the patron for their responsibility in this contract.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Counselor Bosley, seconded by Counselor Chadbourne. I know what we've talked about this. I know what you're trying to do here. I understand it. I think there are some issues that would be worked out in how this change would substantially modify how this proposed ordinance would be enforced. Right now, it specifically looks at the businesses because it's manageable for our code department to enforce this mandate with a small number of businesses. Changing it to the patrons and handing out tickets would be a substantial change, one that we haven't really reviewed or looked at how that would impact the police department and how this would work. So I'm just putting that out there. The council can do it at once, but I think this is a pretty substantial change that the council needs to consider. Any further comments? Councilor Workman.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do support Councilor Bosley's amendment. I think the accountability needs to be put on the person, not necessarily person and or business, but the monetary fine, I think, should be passed on to the person as well as a business. I just would argue maybe a lesser monetary value. And I understand the burden that it puts on staff. I'm wondering if there is any other way to make it so that it's not a violation of a city ordinance, but some other ticketed system of some sort so that it's not the police that are having to enforce that. Thank you.
My understanding is, this wouldn't be a criminal offense, so it wouldn't go on someone's record. It's not something that our current system could track, first offense, second offense, all of that stuff. It would be very challenging to do that. And it's something that hasn't been investigated or fleshed out. I would really caution the council about moving in this direction until it, unless it wants to refer it back and we can continue to look at it. But this would be a real substantial change that I wouldn't want to rush. Councilor Filio?
Initially, I was going to support the amendment. Based on what you said, I think I'm going to pull back a little bit on that. And as we've said, we can start reviewing this, 30 days, next meeting, 60 days, and give staff a little bit more time to find out the ramifications of this particular amendment. It is a little bit larger and more difficult to enforce than I thought it would be. So at this point, I'm going to say no to the amendment. But with that said, we can take a look at this down the road to see if we could fit this in. Thank you.
Councilor Manwaring?
Thank you, Your Honor. I support Kate's amendment also. I think that, there are a lot of reasons that this is going to be really difficult for the business. They are, certainly the ones that I've talked to have said that this is going to, put an added stress on our staff. And we know that lots of businesses are having trouble keeping staff. And I think the other thing is that businesses have been paying for sanitizers, they've been have masks all the time, and then to think that we're gonna, hit them with a fine, I just don't see that at all. I think it's totally punishing the wrong person, and, again, obviously I supported recommended, not required, so, I will continue to do that, to support recommended, which is the other way out of this. So I think that that's, up to staff here.
Okay, further comments? Councilor Hooper, then Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've been hearing a lot from the business community, some more aggressively than others. And I did have a nice talk with Ted McGreer this morning. He's a community leader. He's a business leader in Keene, and he is very concerned about putting the onus on some of the younger employees that he has, where they're trying to tell somebody not to shop in their business if they don't have a mask. This is not good. However, I don't want to dilute the mandate, but I want to strengthen the business community's situation that they're in because of what we're doing to try to protect the community. So I support this amendment. I know we're cautioned not to proceed, but we must show the business community that we're trying to work with them through this terrible time. And I think we need to consider this amendment.
Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I think that everything that Councilor Hooper just suggested is what I was thinking of. I'm really empathetic to the businesses and what they've written and the gathering, their concerns. But this, to me, takes the onus off of them and it puts it on the people. And I just, I'm hoping that this is a good middle ground. So I support this amendment.
I have to comment. I think it takes the onus maybe off the businesses, but it puts it directly on our city staff, and it changes who needs to enforce this and makes it unenforceable. I would really caution the council about substantially modifying this in this way. If we want to go down, at the end of tonight, I want to get to an up or down vote. If you really disagree with the ordinance, vote it down in its final form. I think substantially changing it in this way is going to really convolute things and make it challenging for us to get to that end result that everybody wants, an up or down vote on this ordinance. But that's all I'm going to say about it. City Manager.
So I am also going to add my concerns related to this change. We don't currently have a system to track individual tickets for people for this ordinance, and we would need to create something like that. The other issue is who's calling the police to report a violation of an ordinance. The point of entry at a business was always the location of someone either put a mask on or they didn't come in to conduct business. In this way, I guess if you're looking for a compromise, if a business isn't looking to enforce it, then really there's no mask requirement unless a patron calls a police officer on another patron. So I think one of the reasons it was focused originally at the point of entry is because in order for someone to come in and conduct business, they needed to comply with the ordinance. Making it individual, I think you will have some challenges with that depending upon the businesses in the community and whether they support it and whether they are going to enforce it in their store, unless you have a citizen, like I said, calling on another. We can do whatever the council wants. We will need some time to do two things. We'll need time to figure out a tracking system if this is the direction you go, and to communicate with the public. Originally, we recommended an effective date of Monday because I know this is a time-sensitive issue for you. But those two things, I think we would need a little bit of time to work in some sort of a system if that's the direction that you go.
Councilor Workman?
Thank you, Your Honor. So we could effectively move forward as it's written now and make an amendment at any time down the road to this if we want, correct? Or revise it down the road to add that, in 60 days, say.
I think you
I
might,
think that's
I have a feeling we'd need a public hearing. You'd have to go through the public process if you're gonna do that again.
All right, thank you for clarifying.
Counselor Bosley.
Thank you. So I would just like to point out to everyone that this is our ordinance. We should be responsible for enforcing it. We should not be asking business owners to enforce the work that we're putting together here. That needs to go back on the city if that's what we want. We're making that decision. And secondly, exactly what you described is what happened previously. If a business was not mandating masks and patrons were in there not wearing masks, other patrons had to contact code enforcement instead of the police department. It still would be it's the exact same model. We're just asking that the ultimate person who's on the hook for this is not the 16-year-old girl at YOLO making ice cream. It's the person who is in that business who is most likely challenging this ordinance on some principle, and that would be, in the wrong here. That's all.
Okay, all set to vote on this amendment? Ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Hooper.
Yes.
Counselor Remy.
Yes.
Counselor Manwaring.
Yes.
Counselor Wade.
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
No.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
No.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counselor Madison.
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman.
Yes.
Counselor Bosley.
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
No.
I have a feeling that passed. All right, so the amendment passes. So Counselor Bosley's amendment, modification to section I of 171, I believe, is incorporated into what we have on the table. Further amendments. Counselor Manwaring.
Just a question, Your Honor. So is there something, I just can't do it quickly, but is there something in this amendment that says it's going to happen immediately? Can we put it off for whatever time staff needs to do this?
Yeah, so we have an effective date right now for Monday as the motion was made. If someone wanted to offer up a motion to move that effective date out to a date certain, they could do that.
I would like to move to amend, to move the date to what would be reasonable. 20 days? 30
I mean,
days?
you're looking at maybe January 1st. City manager?
Yeah, I think so.
So the concern that I have is, when the public input was being received from the hospital, they are looking for this to happen right away. And because the holidays are approaching, and they feel pretty strongly that this should be something that happens as soon as possible. So I would not be comfortable pushing it out. I'm just going to be very upfront with you. We don't have a system to track. And I don't think we have tickets. I don't think we have any of those things. So there would need to be some work that would have to happen before we could even begin to enforce. Now, oftentimes, to be honest, most of the time it's a conversation. It's an educational opportunity. Very few people become so resistant that they have to receive a ticket. So that could be the case, but this is such an emotionally charged issue. I don't know that will be the case this time around.
I'm going to suggest January 3rd, Monday, January 3rd. That will be my amendment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Counselor Manwaring and a second by Counselor Remy to move the effective date out to January 3rd. Any discussion? Counselor Williams?
I'm opposed to moving the date out any farther than we have to. Would remind people that Omicron is here. We are in the thick of it. We need this thing as soon as possible, and I don't think any further delay is warranted.
Counselor Filio?
I'm opposed to moving it down too, and I'll remind the council, the intent here and the intent of the last one was never to be fining people, to be causing trouble. That's why first offense, verbal warning, second offense, written warning, third offense, small fine. That's never been the intent. The intent is just honestly to get people to wear masks, because once again, we're in the middle of a pandemic again. It's not to punish individuals, it's not to punish businesses. It's just to get the people to wear masks more often, because once again, we're in the pandemic, where we have new strains coming in, and anything we can do, especially now that we're all coming indoors again, to alleviate that, even if it's one or two people, we won't know who doesn't get it, but we know we can possibly prevent it. So I wouldn't push this down any farther, and as the city manager said, first one's a verbal warning. You don't need a ticket packet to give a verbal warning. And then the second time around, if you need to give a written warning, I'm sure we can figure it out. But once again, it's not the intent. The intent is try to get everybody on board, get the business owners just to follow what we're just trying to say is, all we're trying to do is prevent the spread of a pandemic. That's it. This isn't a punishment for a business. This isn't a punishment for anybody. If you look at the ordinance, and I was reading Brattleboro, Vermont's ordinance, Hanover, New Hampshire's ordinance, Lebanon, New Hampshire's ordinance. Ours by far is the weakest ordinance. Most of these others still require outdoors. And if you can imagine Hanover, they have an outdoor mask mandate in a college town with a college 10 times bigger than Keene State. And I talked to a couple of business owners up there who I'm friends with. They haven't had a problem with it. So I don't feel we'll have a problem with it here. I think most business owners will try their best. I mean, there might be a couple that'll skirt it. There's people that'll see a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit sign and do 70 every time. We're not going to be able to enforce it with everybody. We're just trying to educate and do the best thing we can and get through this damn pandemic by the time spring comes. That's it.
All right, Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't think we need to change a date just for enforcement. We have a start date. Staff can work with that, and they start enforcing when they can. That's done administratively. We don't need to change the start date to do for an administrative function. They can do it on their own. I think we should stick with the start date we have. When staff is ready to start enforcing, let them do it.
Okay, any further comments? Councilor Manwaring?
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess I'm feeling kind of confused with what folks are saying. I certainly understand that, we are in a state of crisis here. I think there are, other things that we can do other than just focus on wearing a mask. I mean, I certainly know people that have been trying to get a booster shot for weeks and haven't even been able to get one in Keene. They're going outside of Keene. So, we're sort of losing the issue about vaccines. And it seems to me that if what we're saying is, well, we have this ordinance here, but we're not going to enforce it, why are we even doing it? It doesn't make any sense to me. And believe me, anybody that's listening, and I'm sure all the businesses are listening, and they're going to hear what the city manager said, we can't enforce it, so they're not going to do it. I mean, so we're already gutting the ordinance that we're proposing. You know how word travels. So to me, maybe that's what we do. We vote down the ordinance. I don't know, but if we're going to say we want this to happen, then we need to be prepared to hit the ground running. And it doesn't sound like we are. So that's why I'm saying January 3rd. That gives you, I mean, it's only 2 weeks, but at least it's 2 weeks. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think that some folks have not heard or seen all the emails you and I have. There were so many that were just the opposite of our PDL meeting the other evening. There were people just begging to get this mask, begging us. And they were lawyers and doctors and business owners and mothers and school teachers and professors, you name it. Not even to mention the clergy. And so I don't want us to lose sight of that. This is a pandemic. It's happening. I don't like it. You don't like it. I don't like the mask. But if it helps, I'm going to go for it. Thank you kindly.
All right, thank you. Any further comments on the amendment to move the effective date to January 3rd? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Hooper.
No.
Counselor Remy.
Yes.
Counselor Manwaring.
Yes.
Counselor Lake,
No.
Counselor Filio.
No.
Counselor Williams,
No.
Counselor Jones,
No.
Counselor Johnson,
No.
Counselor Madison,
No.
Counselor Chadbourne,
No.
Counselor Workman,
No.
Counselor Bosley,
No.
Counselor Powers.
No.
All right, I think that one fails too. Anybody else want to offer up an amendment? Counselor Williams.
Okay, this is an amendment to. Thank you. Under the requirements section, this is an amendment to item B, which reads, members of the public entering an enclosed indoor business for any purpose are required to wear a face covering completely covering their nose and mouth while conducting their business. Provided, however, that members of the public shall not be required to wear a face covering while actually seated. I think that's a little broad. I think the intention of that was supposed to apply to eating at a restaurant. I'm not really thrilled that people are eating at a restaurant these days, but I'll let that go. But I don't think that we should open it up to, you consider on any place indoors. I'm particularly concerned about the library. I'm also concerned about various waiting rooms around town. I was at the DMV not long ago in a waiting room sitting around for a while. There were some people there sitting around without masks, and I was pretty nervous about that. So my amendment is to just stick 5 words on the end of that, specifying that members of the public shall not be required to wear a face covering while actually seated at a food service establishment. So this says only if it's a restaurant, but not if you're down at the waiting room of the auto shop.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Counselor Williams, seconded by Counselor Jones, to amend Section 66-171, Part B, to add in a food service establishment to the end of that part. Any discussion on that? Seeing none? Oh, Counselor Chadbourne?
Well, what about bars when you're
Those
sitting?
would be included as a
As
food
restaurants?
service.
Food service.
Okay.
Further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Hooper,
Yes.
Counselor Remy,
Yes.
Counselor Mainwaring,
Yes.
Counselor Lake,
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Madison,
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman,
Yes.
Counselor Bosley,
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes.
All right, it's unanimous, so that amendment is incorporated into what we have before us. Any further amendments being proposed? Counselor Workman?
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't necessarily have an amendment, but I did have a question about D, the non-membership fitness clubs. Aren't most fitness clubs membership? So I wasn't sure if that was just a typo.
Section 171D, you're saying? Non-membership fitness centers. I think the reason that we put non-membership fitness centers in there, let's see. Huh. City manager?
The city attorney intentionally did that. And I know that it had something to do with a Planet Fitness versus a different type of fitness area. And I honestly don't remember exactly, but I know it was intentional on his part.
So part of his rationale was
Honor?
trying to divide out.
He's online.
Oh, he is on the Zoom.
Your Honor?
Yes, Tom.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you allowing me to at least listen and participate remotely in rainy Northwest United States. But in any event, the reason I put that in there was because there was some confusion the last iteration of the ordinance from some of the fitness centers. I think, there is a question that at least there were some possibilities that you could have a fitness location, either in a hotel or a motel, or where there was a fitness room, and the public aspect may cover that, but it was just to make it clear as a result of the ambiguity that occurred last time, that if you have to pay to get into the fitness center, it wasn't a place of general public involvement or public invite. It was merely to clarify that question that came up before.
All set, Councilor Workman, or?
So would regular fitness clubs also be included in the mandate, correct?
Fitness clubs that charge a membership for entry, are not covered by the mandate, such as, I belong to option one, I think, and you can't just walk into option one. You have to pay to be able to get in.
Because it's not accessible to the public.
That's exactly right. That's right. Not generally accessible to the public.
Thank you for that clarification.
Councilor Bozo.
Can I also ask one more clarificating question? Because I was approached by several pickleball members who are currently playing at the rec center. And I'm not sure what their arrangement is, but they were curious whether they understood that they should be wearing masks in and out, but while they're at play, how would this impact them?
If they're reserving the court, though,
They have to wear the mask inside.
they have to wear the mask inside.
While participating in their sport.
Yeah, all right, that answers that. Further amendments, anybody, first of all? No? Comments or questions? Council Powers?
Thank you, Your Honor. If I'm hearing the city manager correctly, she is looking to code enforcement as being, no? Who's the enforcer?
Police department would be the enforcer of the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Council Remy.
Thank you, Your Honor. A question, for someone who's performing in a public space, like a singer is doing a performance, the space is open to the public, would they be required to wear a mask while performing?
I think you could argue that if they were paying to get in and paying for the performance, then that would not be something that was open and accessible to the public. Someone could make that argument, but generally, yes, the way it's written.
I don't know where it would be appropriate to make an amendment to add that language in to put in
I think the most appropriate thing to do, if you wanted to do that, is probably to exempt performance venues in that same section. Or theaters.
I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase that, because it's.
We did contemplate this, and once you start slicing and dicing different people and their roles in an establishment, it gets very, very messy. So if you did want to do that, I would suggest focusing on the place that's exempt.
Would it be not appropriate to say the performer and the performance space?
I think that would be very challenging.
This is where I wish I know Tom is our voice overhead, but I wish we had that makes me nervous passing this without having him fully present, as much as I appreciate it.
As with a lot of legislation, I mean, the words in here matter very much. And when you start saying something like a performer in a venue, well, all my wait staff are performers. They're, think about the different establishments that are out there. It gets very messy. And I just put that out there for the council's consideration. Councilor Johnson?
But I think I can answer that. Mike? Thank you kindly. Again, I appreciate your patience. I believe that there's going to be a huge Messiah sing at the church at the head of the square, and I think it's with masks. I think this. And the Keene Chorale is intending to do a concert. My understanding it is it'll be with masks.
Thank you. The other thing to keep in mind is that the ordinance, as it's currently written, does allow for a barrier to be
Yes.
put between the public and whoever is working or performing, making them exempt. And so that's something that a performance venue could consider. Further questions? Counselor Chadbourne?
Yeah, I'm looking at section 66-171 G. A face covering is not required for any person with a medical or developmental condition to whom wearing a face covering would pose a threat to their health or safety. The individual shall not be required to produce documentation or other evidence to verify the condition. I think this is good, especially for people with PTSD and other other issues. My only concern is this. I believe in the idea of this ordinance, ordinance, but it feels flawed in the sense of there are people cannot. I think that's important to have that in there, but people can abuse that. And wherever you walk into a store and somebody doesn't have a mask, and we're going to ask the employee of the store to ask them to leave, and we don't know if they really can't wear a mask or they don't want to wear a mask. We can't make that difference. I can't think of the word. I just feel sometimes like this is flawed. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an amendment, just a request on Section B, the part about businesses shall implement adequate measures to notify their employees. A business asked me, can the city produce a sign, put it on their website, make it a friendly sign, not one written by a lawyer, but make it sound like we're trying to make people healthy. And this way they can print it out and put it on the inside, the outside of their buildings. Like I said, it's not an amendment, it's just a request I'm throwing out there.
I like that.
I'm getting a nodding head from the city manager.
I like that.
Counselor Johnson?
Can I jump on your shoulder and make it an amendment?
You're welcome to make an amendment if you like.
Because that's a great idea. If we give a guideline, and then if the businesses want to, they can have that as something they can.
I don't think that's going to require an amendment. I think you've
Okay.
got the city manager agreeing on the record that if this passes, that
Thank you. I
that
think
she
that's
would
a
make
good
that
idea.
available.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Counselor Filio?
I appreciate everybody's comments here because, we're all trying to make the best ordinance we can without handcuffing businesses. We're all trying to do that. And I realize now we're all, we're calling it splitting hairs and, we're trying to do everything. And every ordinance we have that we've ever written in here has flaws. All of them. There's all loopholes, and that's why you have courts. And that's why, we have enforcement. And like I said, I was reading Brattleboro's, Lebanon, and Hanover's mask ordinances today, word for word, all three of them. And I'll tell you, they're all flawed. They all have loopholes. But all three of these ordinances, including ours, once again, the intent is to try to get people to comply. And once again, if a business or a person decides they're not going to comply, they're probably not going to, and it's going to be hard to catch. We acknowledge that. But once again, we're doing, as the elected people of Keene, who are elected to look over the health and well-being and safety of our city, we're doing the best we can of what we have in front of us. We don't have everything. We don't have every answer. After an ordinance is passed, we realize there wasn't a I dotted or T crossed, and there might be corrections. And once again, we'll be looking at this anytime down the road. But if we sit here all night and try to find every little flaw in it, an ordinance would never get passed. No ordinance would ever get passed. So what I'd recommend is, even though we might find it's flawed, the first one we had was probably flawed. These three that I read today are probably flawed. But once again, put what's in front of us, the whole reasoning of we're trying to do this. We're trying to potentially save lives. That's the bottom line of it. How many we save, we'll probably never know. If it's one or if it's two, if it's none, we won't know. But it's not going to hurt other than being an inconvenience. That's all it's going to be to some, is an inconvenience. And I hope we can move on with this and, you know, try not to make so many little minute changes to it, because when we go home, and I recommend you download the other 3 ordinances, and you'll realize that, you know, it's never gonna be perfect. Just do the best we can.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Counselor Jones?
Can I just ask, are we now on the part where we're speaking to the ordinance as amended, or are we still waiting for amendments?
Still to the part where you, or no, we're at the part where you speak about the ordinance as amended. We're getting ready to vote on the ordinance as amended. Counselor Jones?
Thank you. I think we've done our best. I think if there's something we haven't done, from listening to all the comments, especially at the PLD meeting, we had a lot of comments against it, but there's an education portion to this. And and some people spoke very eloquently, and people that are very good at what they do, but they had the wrong concept. A lot of them were talking about protecting themselves. We had engineers and military people and firefighters, and someone who talked about 45 minutes to get measured for a N95 mask. They're all correct, but it's the wrong concept. You're not protecting yourself. You're protecting others from spreading. And how are you doing that? It's called SPS, Stop Projected Spittle. We can't stop that virus from going out, but the virus lives in the spittle, and that's the transport vehicle. It's hitching a ride in the spittle. And the mask is doing that. It's stopping the spittle. It's stopping the projection of spittle. We can't stop it all. Masks are about maybe 9 microns big in some of their orifices, something like that. We can't stop it all, but we can stop the projection. That's why we also have the 6-foot physical standard. And that's what we want to do. I know Gladys had asked me about glasses. What happens with people fogging up their glasses? You know what that means when your glasses are fogging up? That means you're damming up the spittle, the vapor's going up. That means the mask is working. It's not projecting out 6 feet. And that's what we're trying to do. I think we have a social conscience here where we have to do something. I want to ask each one of you 3 questions. One is, as an employer, do you think it's your job to protect, we have over 300 employees, almost 300 employees, is it your job to protect your employees? As a city councilor, is it your job to protect the health and well-being of the city? And third, as a human being, is it your job to possibly keep one other human being from dying? If you think so, if you can say yes to any of those 3, I think maybe you should vote for this ordinance.
All right. A point of order, I do need another motion to adopt the ordinance as amended. So if Counselor Bosley would be willing to offer that.
I move to adopt the ordinance as currently amended.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Bosley, seconded by Counselor Jones. Okay.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just want to make sure that it's clear to the council, early on in the discussion about the termination provision, the termination provision under L is much like a sunset provision, although the council has a role in determining the sunset. I heard some conversation about the possibility of amending this at some point short of termination. If that were to happen, it would have to go through the amended ordinance process. You don't have to do that process if you're just going to simply terminate the entire thing. Right. I want to make sure that the council understands that if down the road you wish to amend the terms of the ordinance, it would have to go through the amendment process. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, voice from the sky. All right. Counselor Hooper.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I've got a couple of quotes in here, so I want to make sure that I read the quotes carefully and accurately. You know, I've always been a safety and health counselor. It's been one of my top priorities for the last 6 years of serving as city councilor. And I think it's at the top at this particular point with this crisis going on with COVID. It's increasing now in New Hampshire and Keene, and our hospitals are on code red. No beds, so where to go? An ambulance ride to Albany, New York? I think we really need to think seriously about the importance, and I agree with Councilor Jones that we're really we're taking an oath when we're sworn in to look out for the best in the community, and I think the best for the community is to make sure that they're safe and healthy. I'm reading emails from residents, and an overwhelming majority of the emails I read are in favor of a mask mandate. As Councilor Johnson mentioned, we're all tired and exhausted with the pandemic, and patience is frayed. We're hearing that from all of the emails that we're getting. I don't like the local businesses being affected, and I think we've addressed some of that this evening. I don't like the fact that our community is split on this issue. We need to join together and be a solid community, and this is very upsetting to me. One email stood out to me. Craig Macbeth, a retired dentist that I'm sure many of you know, stated, and I quote, "As a retired dentist, I spent over 40 years wearing a mask at work because the science is clear that bacteria and viruses, and as Councilor Jones says, spittle, that are in the body easily become airborne and spread from the mouth. A sneeze, an unexpected event, and just breathing expel bacteria and virus particles into the atmosphere. There's no question that wearing a mask has prevented me and my staff from becoming exposed to infectious diseases as well." So he's helping his staff, and he's also helping his patients. I think Dr. Macbeth makes a strong case to wear a mask. I wanted to get personal here with my family. Back in 1918, my great-aunt Marion McCune Rice was a Red Cross nurse in France. In one of her letters home, she said, and I quote from one of her letters that she sent to my grandmother, "Why won't our American boys keep their mask on? Will they never learn sense? The percentage of gas cases is appalling among them, not among others. The Americans don't like to be uncomfortable, and of course the masks are not comfortable." Well, yet 100 years ago, people not wanting to wear masks, in this case gas masks. And 1918 was the great influenza. One of the ways that the nurses and others in the community protected themselves 100 years ago was wearing masks. So let's not forget the history here, please. Masks were important then for gas attacks and for the influenza. Masks are important now, 100 years later. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Remy.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I want to be clear, I understand everything that the councilors are saying around that masks do prevent the spread, that masks can prevent the spread, that they stop spittle. I think the enforcement of this is going to be a nightmare no matter how it's done, whether it's on the businesses, whether it's on the individuals. I think the enforcement of it's going to be a nightmare. I don't want to put that on the businesses. I don't want to put that on the police. I think people should wear masks. As I said in the beginning, I wear my mask because I think it's important. I don't wear it all the time. I wear it in situations where I think it's going to help. I think everybody should have that personal responsibility to do that. I think people should take it on themselves to keep themselves safe. I think people should take it on themselves to keep others safe. I just can't vote for creating this enforcement mechanism. Thank you.
Councilor Filio.
Thank you. I know it's getting long, but
Powers has been
just look, there's no question that any mask ordinance is going to be an inconvenience for some businesses. But on a personal level, my word inconvenience was when my sister-in-law was on a ventilator. That's inconvenience. Councilor Johnson, I lost a relative, they were on a ventilator. So if you want inconvenience, it's when you're on the telephone with a relative that's on a ventilator with you saying goodbye. That's an inconvenience. This is nothing.
All right, Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't dispute the concern that people have on this issue, on both sides of the issue. And I think when you weigh up all those emails and testimony and information, You know, I'm seeing it about 50-50. So that tells me that it's an important issue. I mean, it's fairly simple to us. It's a very important issue. It's a concern for all of us as elected officials, as parents, grandparents, and everything else. But I'm very concerned with this ordinance because it puts an onus in the wrong place, in my opinion. It's making the business owner, no matter what it is, whether it's a small shop on Main Street or the grocery store, it's very difficult. We're gonna hold them responsible because other people are irresponsible, that they won't wear a mask. From all that information we've gotten from folks, you know, it also says shots, being healthy, not doing stupid stuff, and wear a mask. Please, let's wear a mask. Let's not have the police department or code enforcement or any city employee have to say, we gotta do this, we gotta deal with this issue because you're being numb, stupid, whatever you wanna call it. But I think we're going down the wrong road by trying to mandate this at this point in time. And we've got a lot of concern. I understand that. We wanna push out a little bit until we get a system. Well, it's important. Let's do it now. Let's send a message to everybody. Get your shots. Don't do things stupid. Stay healthy and wear a mask. But let's not make it mandatory. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Further discussion? All right, seeing none. Are you ready to vote on the ordinance as amended?
Right.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Hooper,
Yes.
Counselor Rimming,
No.
Counselor Manwaring,
No.
Counselor Blake,
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Madison,
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman,
Yes.
Counselor Bosley,
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
No.
All right, looks like it was adopted. Now, look, I'm going to take a moment of the chair's privilege, just to say, it's not my job to steer the council and tell them what to do, and I tried very hard not to do that. One thing I do want to say, though, is this community is totally divided. And the tribalism I've seen on display over the last couple of weeks is the most concerning thing. Ultimately, this mask mandate, this ordinance, it will pass. Maybe it's 60 days from now, maybe it's 120 days from now. It is not going to solve the problem. If we don't have people going out there and encouraging their friends and neighbors, the people they care about, to go to wear masks voluntarily, wear them in their house over Christmas, if it's appropriate. Go out and get your friends and neighbors and family vaccinated. The best thing you can possibly do to keep people out of the emergency room, keep people out of intensive care, is to get vaccinated. And we have an appallingly low vaccination rate here locally. I mean, lower than lots of other places in the state. That's what concerns me. We'll get past this. In the short term, I really hope this community can come back together. I don't think that this mandate helped that, frankly. If you want my opinion, now it's all done. But it is what it is. Get over it. Come back together. Let's get through this. We've done it before. We did it last year. We did exceptionally well. So let's do it again. All right? Thank you very much. Thank you for all your time and work on that ordinance. I know that's tough to do as basically a committee of the whole group, but I appreciate it. And I appreciate those who reached out to me beforehand to make it a little cleaner than it could have been. All right, back to our regular agenda. This brings us to number 3.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to Ordinance O 2021-15, an ordinance related to redistricting of ward lines, and the committee recommends the adoption of Ordinance O 2021-15 with an effective date of January 1, 2022.
All right, we'll file the report, and Councilor Powers for motion to adopt, please. Councilor Hooper for a second.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move for the adoption of ordinance 2021-15.
With an effective date of?
January 1st.
Thank you.
2022.
Thank you.
And I second that.
All right, we have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Hooper. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, we've heard from the city clerk, former mayor, his committee, several times on this, so this is not new information. Every 10 years, we're required to redraw the boundary lines for political subdivisions all across the country. This is no different. In the past, the language in our charter was a little difficult when you didn't get the census information on time. So this amendment and this change puts it on the city council to do this every 10 years when we get the census information. The committee worked hard at this. Many of the members of the committee have done it in the past. The deviation between wards is very minimal. The numbers of it. Some places have changed dramatically in terms of where the ward line is, particularly around the college. Ward 1, Ward 5 have some fairly significant changes just because of the numbers of people. Your voting places are going to be the same. Any of us here that have been elected in a certain ward, any of the election officials, moderators, clerks, et cetera, are all going to be in the same ward. Nothing's changed. If the ward line had changed because of the redistricting, all of us would have stayed in those positions throughout that term, given this language. So I think it's a very clean way of dealing with it, and it makes it a lot easier in the future to do the redistricting. A few shifts here and there, but you'll be voting in the same places. Committee heard all this from the committee, from the clerk, and voted unanimously to recommend the adoption of the ordinance. I urge you to do the same. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say, we've been through these for a number of years now. I've seen this happen a lot. And they have tough guidelines to stick with. And I think they did a tremendous job. Congratulations to this committee. And just the way it's laid out on the map is the best I've seen it in years. Ward 4 used to look like a figure 8, and now it looks like an actual piece of a ward. Yes, so thank you to the committee and to the FOP for doing this.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Thank you to the committee. They did a great job, and I appreciate them stepping up. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Councilor
I'd just like to say
Johnson.
one thing about the Heritage Committee, if I might.
That's not related to this item on
Okay.
the agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Hooper.
Oh, beg your pardon.
Yes.
Counselor Remy.
Yes.
Counselor Manwaring.
Yes.
Counselor Lake.
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counselor Madison.
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman.
Yes.
Counselor Bosley.
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Got ahead of myself.
Which brings us to resolutions. Number 1.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to Resolution R 2021-48, a resolution relating to the establishment of a fire EMS training and public education revolving fund pursuant to RSA 3195H for the purpose of receiving revenue and expending funds relative to fire EMS training and public education. Committee's recommendation is for adoption.
And we'll file the report, and I'm looking to Councilor Powers for a motion to adopt, and Councilor Hooper for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2021-48.
Second.
We have a motion for Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Hooper. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy Fire Chief Jeff Chickering came to the committee and explained that this action will establish a revolving fund for training and educational activities that are sponsored outside the regular operation of the police or the fire department's budget. And it's very similar. The best analogy that can be made is to outside detail fund in the police department. In other words, the services of the police department are used but paid for by other entities, and it doesn't affect the budget, and the monies are there. In this case, it's being established because there's an opportunity to capture some of the funding that's left over at the end of the program, and it continues to go forward for the rest of the year into the next year, so that when you begin to sponsor another training program, and many of these training programs are where other departments participate, come here, you have the funds to get it started and get it going. So it's self-perpetuating. In the past, this was done, but we had to bring it in, we had to separate it out, and it was just quite a bit of accounting. This is probably one of the best accounting methods to do it, and we're doing it in other places. So the committee heard this, and voted unanimously to recommend that this be established, and we hope you will pass this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Seeing none? Simple?
Simple.
Are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. All right, so I do have one more item of business tonight. It's a sad bit of business, but Councilor Manwaring and Councilor Hooper, this is your last meeting with us, and I wanted to recognize you. If you could join me up here, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit.
Yes, Sam.
All right.
For your families, what do you call it?
All right, so Councilor Hooper first. Councilor Hooper was elected in 2015. He started his service as a member of the Municipal Services, Facilities, and Infrastructure Committee. He served on that committee until 2020 when he assumed the Vice Chair of Finance, Organization, and Personnel. I remember that conversation we had well when I wanted you to step up and serve as Vice Chair of FOP, and you've just done an incredible job. And I'm really appreciative because I know you were kind of like, I don't know if I want to do that, but you did because I asked you. And I think the whole city benefited from that. And you'll continue your service on the Ashwellet River Park Advisory Committee, which is great, and we really appreciate that. And so we wanted to give you one from the city staff and the council, a little token of appreciation. And then for me personally, I want to give you this key to the city for your service, and in recognition that you always have a key to get back in if you want to continue that service at any time. But congratulations.
Lovely.
Do you have anything you want to say? Just briefly. Let's see if I can turn this on. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor. When I was a news photographer as a career, one of the things I heard a lot was, there's something terrible that's happened. It's very dangerous. And we want you to run to that danger and take pictures. So I did that for almost 40 years, and then I was kind of lost, a lost guy. What should I do? And finally somebody came up to me and said, listen, why don't you be a city councilor? You can run to danger and not get paid very much doing it. I said, wow, that reminds me a great deal of being a photojournalist in a newspaper. So, all kidding aside, it was quite an experience, 6 years. And I want to thank Mayor Hansel for his support, and I want to thank the Chair of FOP, Chair Powers, for his leadership on the FOP, and the fellow committee members on the FOP. It was an honor to serve with you. And overarchingly, I wanted to thank the council members, both past and present. It's been an honor serving all of you as well. The city staff, I want to thank the city management leaders, Patty, city manager, Tom, and without your support, it would be very, very difficult. I also want to thank my dear Jan Manwaring for serving on the MSFL committee for 4 years. It was an honor serving with you. Let me get back to the staff. The city staff, all of the staff at the city are hardworking and very talented, so I'll miss the city staff as well, working with all of you. And most importantly, I miss working with the city constituents, the business people, the citizens of Keene. It was an honor serving you for the 6 years. I probably left somebody out here, but again, thank you very much, and I'll give it back to you.
Thank you so much. It's really sad. I'm going to miss you both so much. So Councilor Manwaring was elected in 2009, and her service on the City Council started and concludes on the Municipal Services, Facilities, and Infrastructure Committee. Jan has served as chair of the committee since 2016 and has effectively managed a variety of issues that have come before her committee, such as raising the minimum age to 21 for the sale of tobacco products, responding to concerns from residents related to flood management, road maintenance, removal of trees, as well as many other items of business, both staff and public driven related to city parks, public art, parking, utilities, sidewalks, and vital city infrastructure. Councilor Manwaring has and will continue to have a positive impact on the community through her many endeavors. I know Jan is going to stay active, but it includes her dedicated work on the design plans for the Patricia T. Russell Park, her affiliation with the Serenity Center, her service as the chair of Friends of the Public Library, and her continued membership on the Human Rights Committee, and her role as an elected supervisor of the checklist in Ward 1. So I'd really like to present you, similarly, with your gift from the staff and the council, and then same way, this key to the city that I hope you wear with pride and know that you're always welcome back at City Hall. And we greatly appreciate your service. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been quite a trip. Some of you heard the story. When I was first running, I thought it was for 2 years, and Chris Roberts, interestingly enough, said, well, no, Jan, it's 4 years. And I was quite surprised, but it's been wonderful. And one of my mottos was, when the mayor asks you to do something, just do it. Whether you like it or not, just do it. And really, yeah, I bet you. And the wonderful thing is that I have learned so much. I mean, it blows my mind still continually how much city staff does, how complicated city work is, and the work they do in the community, from you know, parks to I just had a problem with my sewer line, so to sewer, soup to nuts, but I can think of a better way to say it, but I won't. So anyway, anyway, it's been a wonderful experience. It's been great working with you. I loved MSFI. I loved working with the people, hearing their complaints. Don't forget the salamanders. We had the salamanders too, which was wonderful. So I will miss you all. Staff has been terrific to me. I have asked questions. I've gotten more involved. As you can see, I'm now supervisor of the checklist. And of course, I ran unopposed, so you know, it's sort of a done deal here. But anyway, I will look forward to continuing what I can do for the city. And I'm very proud of this city. And I think that the wonderful staff we have, Elizabeth and Patty and Tom out there, wherever you are, just make such a difference. And it sort of filters all the way down through city staff. So thank you very much.
Come to the end of our regular agenda, and I do want to thank you all for your work this year. This is the last meeting of the year, and it has been extremely challenging, I think, for everybody. And the way that this council is pulled together, I mean, you don't always agree all the time, and that's fine. That's part of the process, and I think that's really a healthy and a good thing. I hope we can continue with the camaraderie and treating each other with respect through 2022 and all the challenges that we are certainly going to face. But I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday season, and we'll see you back here in 2022 for inauguration. Thank you for your time and attention. We stand adjourned.
I'm going to go home.
Oh, you're going home?
It's tiring, yeah.
kind of tired myself, but
Yeah.
okay. I was looking forward to our ride together, but
You know, I thought it would
rain
have been
check.
fun. Yeah, rain check, you betcha.